Welcome to the tutorial video for Storm and Conquer. These rules are meant for version 6.0, beta, intended for testing, which you can play for free on Tabletop Simulator. Follow our socials for the latest updates. Storm and Conquer is a dark war game that's fast-paced, easy to learn and full of tense moments. 4 players, 90 minutes, mature audiences. Gold has been discovered on a mysterious island. You are a general, sent to capture it on behalf of your house. To win, be the first to secure a castle on Mount Keltos. All players begin as noble generals, working alongside the inhabitants of the island, the Kelkin. At any point during the game, you have the option to switch to a villain. Tread carefully, however. Once you've become a tyrant, there's no going back. To start, let's take a look at the setup, as well as all the items in the game. This is the main board, representing the island of Kelt. In the middle is Mount Keltos. It is divided by a grid of lines where the majority of the game is played. On the corners you build buildings, on the lines, roads to connect them. The first player who builds a castle on any of the middle circles, wins. The double border on the edge of Mount Keltos is for advanced games. These games allow players to start anywhere outside of this box. For standard games, starting positions are fixed and this double border can be ignored. Zooming out, we have a pile of gold which can be earned in various ways. Here, black and white combat dice representing knights. A red fire die, which is used to burn down buildings. 2 set of cards, alliance cards, bonuses for noble generals versus tyrants. And storm cards, powerful combat bonuses. Now, let's take a look at all the pieces each player has, starting with the largest piece, the house banner. The house banner is placed front and center of each player. This indicates to others if you are a noble general or a tyrant. When a player switches to a tyrant, they will flip the banner over, revealing a dark version of the banner. This is important because some bonuses in the game are dependent on whether or not you are noble. Let's take a look at your structures. This is the castle. When you build it on top of Mount Keltos, you win the game. These are outposts. You'll need them to build knights. The more outposts you have, the larger your army. You can upgrade an outpost to a fort. Forts are stronger and they support additional knights. These are guard towers. Guard towers are more expensive than outposts, but give your knights a defensive advantage. These long pieces are roads. Roads are required to create buildings. Next, let's look at your units. The smallest pieces shaped like shields are your knights. Flipping them over onto the back side, you'll notice there is a moon icon. During the game, players will flip them over to indicate that they are resting. This keeps track of which knights have already completed an action and which ones are still available. Your most powerful pieces are the giant and catapults. You'll need to upgrade your outposts before you're able to play them. Let's take a look at the outpost card now. In front of you is an outpost mat, which houses all your outpost upgrades. Standard upgrades have a grey backing, noble only, brown and tyrant only, black. On the back of each tile you'll find the description and cost of each one. To indicate that an upgrade is activated, players will flip the tile over, revealing a building. Here's a quick overview of all of the upgrades. Stables. Allows knights to travel across the island much faster. Gold mine. Receive extra gold per turn. Armory. Allows you to build catapults. As long as you are a noble general, the Kelkin will join your side against any tyrants. Here are the Kelkin structures available to you. Fire pit. This enables the fire die, which gives you a chance to burn down a building instantly. Weapon tent. When fighting a giant, this gives you 3 chances to kill it instead of 1. And smoke tent. This provides smoke cover so your knights can retreat successfully every time. If you decide that the path of nobility is no longer a viable strategy for your house, you may want to rule with an iron fist. If you choose this path, remember that you can never become a noble general again. Another cost to consider is that you will lose all Kelkin upgrades you've already established. However, see if the sheer power of these upgrades outweighs the aforementioned considerations for yourself. These are the buildings available to tyrants only. Bunker. On every turn, receive a storm card. These are powerful combat bonuses. Pens. Conscript the Kelkin and receive 3 additional knights on every turn. Altar. Perform the darkest rituals and summon a giant, capable of destroying everything in its path. These are all the outpost upgrades you must consider while you plan your victory. Next, let's dive deeper into the turn structure, including how the game begins. This is the initial setup of the game. Scattered around the map are the Kelkin's villages. They are represented by the brown pieces. Take note of their placement. On the map, each general begins with a road, an outpost and a knight. Additionally, every player starts with 2 gold. After every player chooses a color, we have to determine who starts. First, all players pick a combat die and roll. The player with the highest number of swords starts. If tied, players with the highest number of swords roll again. The players who rolled less sit out. Continue rolling until there is only 1 player left. This is the player that starts. Starting with the first player and proceeding clockwise, you will take turns until a winner is determined. A player's turn structure is broken up into 2 phases, action phase and end phase. Let's look at the details now. In the action phase, you have complete freedom. On your turn, you can take as many actions, even the same action multiple times, in any order, until you can't or choose not to make any more moves. You must fully resolve an action before taking another. Here are the moves you can take during your action phase. You can build structures, buy storm cards, produce units, upgrade outposts, command knights, catapults or giants. We will explain each action in greater detail, starting with building structures. Let's take a look at how buildings and roads work. Roads are required to increase the size of your kingdom. When you build a new road, it must start off from one of your buildings or another road. It cannot be built floating in the middle. After paying the gold cost for a road, place it on a line on the board. Buildings must be placed on spaces beside one of your existing roads. They also have to be built on an empty space not occupied by enemies. Additionally, there can only be 1 building per space. The only exception is if you are a noble general sharing it with a Kelkin village. Here are some additional scenarios for buildings. When a building is destroyed, return it to its owner. Place 4 gold and 1 storm card to the side. This is the rewards area. When that player enters their end phase, they collect everything here. In the special case of a noble general switching to a tyrant, and they have buildings on top of villages, relocate all villages to a nearby empty space. You can also convert an outpost to a fort. After paying the cost, choose an existing outpost and slide the fort piece under it. For more details about the cost and building info, refer to the rulebook website or the player's reference sheet. Now, let's look at buying a storm card. Purchasing a storm card is quite simple. Pay the cost of the card, Draw a card from the Storm deck and add it to your hand. Storm cards are powerful bonuses that players play during battles. There is no limit on how many Storm cards you can have. Details on when it can be played are found on the card itself. Besides buying them on your turn, here are other ways to get them. You can get one by destroying an enemy's building. Or, as a Tyrant, if you own the Bunker Outpost upgrade, you automatically get one per turn. Next, let's look at producing units. For knights, you can purchase them in singles, threes, or a pack of 6. After paying the cost, place them beside a building you own. You can also choose to place them across different buildings if you produced 3 or 6. That building must have space capacity, in other words, enough slots to fit the knights. More on this later. Additionally, the number of knights you can produce is limited by the number of outposts you have. We'll go into more detail later in this video. If a structure is occupied by enemy knights, and you choose to place them on that building, a battle commences instantly. To unlock catapults, purchase the armory upgrade. After paying the cost, place a catapult in the same space with a building you own. That space must have enough slots to fit it. Giants are only available to Tyrants who have an altar. We will look at unlocking Tyrant outpost upgrades in a moment. To get a giant, after paying the cost, place it in the same space with a building you own. As giants are large in nature, remember that space must have enough slots to fit them. Refer to your reference card for capacity information. Now, let's review how to unlock Tyrant outpost upgrades. Unlike other outpost upgrades where you pay in gold, Tyrant upgrades require you to destroy a village. Here's how it works: when you successfully destroy a village, during your end phase, play one of your Tyrant outpost upgrades instead of collecting the gold you would normally receive. You may only play one upgrade per turn regardless of how many villages you slaughter. In other words, you cannot play 3 upgrades on a single turn, just because you've destroyed 3 villages. And that's how you unlock Tyrant upgrades. For standard outpost upgrades, once per turn, pay 1 gold and place the tile on your outpost card. Similarly, as long as you are a noble general, once per turn, spend 1 gold to gain a noble outpost upgrade. Remember, you will lose all noble outpost upgrades if you decide to become a Tyrant. As you can see, by upgrading your outposts, it can give you many different advantages. Choose your upgrades wisely and ones that fit your style. The next option during the action phase is the ability to command your units. Let's take a look at the details. Commanding knights. Knights have 2 available options: moving and attacking. First, moving. Knights can move independently or as a group. Select a number of knights from one space and move the stack up to 3 spaces away. If you cross paths with enemy knights, the movement ends and a battle must be resolved immediately, unless the player allows you to pass. You are not forced to move knights on your turn. Next, attacking. Knights can attack other knights, buildings, catapults or giants. We'll look at each one in detail later in this video. You are not forced to attack on your turn. Additionally, you cannot attack and then continue moving. In other words, after a battle, those knights need to rest. This is true for after moving as well. After either option, flip the topmost knight over to reveal the moon icon. This indicates that these knights are exhausted, and may not be commanded again this turn. Next, commanding catapults. Like knights, catapults can move and attack. However, catapults have different sequences depending on what it's attacking. Let's look at moving first. For moving catapults, simply place the catapult up to 3 spaces away. You may move as soon as you build it. After the catapult has stopped, you may choose to attack a target. If you are attacking knights, select a space 2 to 4 spaces away in a straight line. Kill all knights in that space. If the target knights are sharing a space with a building or a catapult, only the knights are eliminated, other targets are attacked on a separate turn. Neither you or the defender roll any dice in this situation. To attack an undefended building or a giant, target 2 to 4 spaces away in a straight line and perform a 6 dice attack. Add up all the swords on the combat dice. If it exceeds the target's HP, it is destroyed. For this situation, the defender does not roll any dice. And finally, giants. Giants are a unique unit. You can move the giant up to 2 spaces. All enemy roads and buildings in the giant's path are destroyed. If the giant enters a space with enemy knights, it ends its movement. The enemy has 1 chance to defend itself. Count the number of knights occupying the same space as the giant. The defending player rolls 1 die per knight. If they deal more swords than the giant's HP, the giant dies. Otherwise, all enemy knights are destroyed, including any buildings and catapults. Another situation that may arise is if a giant encounters another giant. Once a giant enters a space with another giant, a battle is triggered. Both giants roll 6 dice. The giant that rolls less swords dies. On ties, both giants reroll. Continue until only 1 giant is left. And those are all the options available during the action phase. Remember, you can take as many actions as you need, in any order, until you'd like to stop or there are no more options left. This freedom is one of the features that makes Storm and Conquer unique. Now, let's look at the end phase. The end phase is broken up into 3 steps: collect income, collect rewards and refresh knights. First, collect income. Players receive gold on every turn. Noble generals receive 2 gold, while tyrants receive only 1. Next, collect rewards. For noble generals, collect an additional 4 gold and 1 storm card for each building you destroyed this turn. For tyrants, collect 4 gold and 1 storm card for each building destroyed. Additionally, count the number of villages slaughtered this turn and collect 1 gold for each. As an option, gain a Tyrant Outpost upgrade instead of collecting 1 of the gold earned by slaughtering a village. We'll look at this in more detail in a moment. Once you have collected your income and rewards, the last step is to refresh your knights. Do this by flipping knights, showing the moon icon back to their normal position. Now, the turn has ended, and it's the next player's turn, clockwise. The game continues until a player successfully builds a castle on Mount Keltus. That player is then crowned the winner. Collecting rewards and income are just a few of the key differences between a noble general and a tyrant. Let's look at the trade-offs and the process of becoming a tyrant in more detail. To become a tyrant, simply attack a village. Whether or not you destroy the village, you convert to a tyrant for the rest of the game and you cannot become noble again. Flip over your house banner, revealing a dark version. This reminds other players that you are a tyrant. Tyrants enjoy powerful bonuses every turn. For example, they can gain knights and storm cards every turn, by upgrading their outpost with pens and bunkers. And, only tyrants have access to giants, the most powerful unit in the game. As a quick recap of the end phase, noble generals always receive 2 gold, while tyrants only receive 1. However, Tyrants can collect additional gold for every village slaughtered. There is no limit to the amount of villages that can be destroyed. Once per turn, Tyrants can slaughter a village to gain a Tyrant Outpost upgrade instead of collecting that gold. Here's an example to illustrate how this works for Tyrants. On this player's turn, he successfully destroys 3 villages. He wants to upgrade his outpost with pens for additional knights. So, instead of getting 4 gold during the end phase, he receives only 3 gold and the pens upgrade. This is because normally he would receive 4 gold, but he is trading one of the gold for the pens instead. Remember, players can only play 1 Tyrant Outpost upgrade per turn. Another major difference for Tyrants are alliance cards. As noble generals liberate the Kelkin from Tyrants, alliance cards represents their support. If you are a noble general, draw alliance cards when attacking a Tyrant or defending from a Tyrant attack. This only applies when entering a Knights versus Knights battle. You receive a proportional number of alliance cards equal to the number of the Tyrant's outpost upgrades they have. For example, if the Tyrant player has pens and an altar, the noble player receives 2 alliance cards. Only once per turn, you choose which battle to use your alliance cards. For example, if there are 3 separate attacks from the same Tyrant, choose which of the 3 battles you wish to draw alliance cards. It is the responsibility of the noble generals to remember to use the alliance cards before the turn is over. Do not redo turns or battles. Look out for house banners flipped to the dark side as a reminder of which players are Tyrants. Here is an attacking example. You are a noble general and during your turn you wish to attack a Tyrant. Since you have only 1 chance to use alliance cards per turn, you choose when to use them against that player. First you send some knights to weaken their forces, but choose not to use any alliance cards yet. After you send a second wave to finish them off, you play the cards to ensure your victory. This Tyrant has an altar and a pen. That means you get to play 2 alliance cards during this attack. You only use one of them and the battle is finished. You must discard the other. There is another Tyrant player who you wish to attack this turn as well. Because you haven't used alliance cards this turn against this player, you can still draw against them, even though you've played alliance cards previously against another Tyrant. In other words, noble generals draw alliance cards against every Tyrant, once per turn. Now, let's look at a defending example. You are a noble general and during a Tyrant's turn, he sends a small wave of knights to weaken your forces. To even the odds in your favor, you choose not to play your alliance cards until he sends the larger group of knights. Remember, these cards are only used when noble general face Tyrants in Knights versus Knight battles. In other words, they are not in play for Tyrant versus Tyrant or noble general versus noble general battles. Every player has a knight limit. Let's look at the details now. As you can imagine, knights require food, shelter and equipment. In Storm & Conquer, that is represented by the outposts, guard towers and forts you own. These buildings allow you to have knights on the board. For each outpost and guard tower you have, it increases the number of knights by 3. If you upgrade an outpost to a fort, it will allow you to have 6 additional knights. When you have more knights than you can provide for, you are over the knight limit. This often happens when your outposts are destroyed. You do not lose knights if you are over the knight limit, you simply cannot create more until additional structures are built. To increase your chances of victory, you'll need to build outposts, and in turn, increase the capacity to support knights in larger numbers. Next, we'll look at slots. Slots are simply the amount of room available on the map for units. On each space the max capacity is 6 slots. Each unit takes up a specific amount. Here, a knight takes up 1 slot, a catapult 3 and a giant 6. You may never go over the maximum capacity of 6 slots. For example, a knight, 1 slot, and a giant, 6 slots, cannot be in the same space because there is not enough room. 7 slots occupied in total with 1 over the maximum. See instructions card for full details. In addition to the maximum number on units allowed within a space, there are other rules on how units interact on the map. Here are 4 common scenarios. Units from multiple players can never occupy the same space. For example, when your unit's movement stops and lands on the same space as another player's, it triggers a battle instantly. This is also true when your units are passing through an occupied space. One exception that allows for units to pass through without a battle is if both players agree. Even though this technically exceeds the slot capacity temporarily, this is legal. However, they cannot occupy the same space when the movement ends. Units can only be built on spaces with enough slots available. For instance, if there are already 6 knights on an outpost, you cannot build another one. When enemies occupy a structure, and you choose to create knights on the same building, it triggers a battle instantly. If there is a scenario you come across in your game that's not explained in this video, please check the rules website, or reach out to us on Discord. Now, let's look at various ways knights can attack. First, knights versus knights. When knights move into the same space as enemy units, a battle occurs. Knights can never end a battle still sharing the same space, one side must retreat or be eliminated. Battles are comprised of rounds. Here are the steps in a round. Step 1. First, the attacker rolls. They roll dice equal to the number of knights they have in this battle. Then, the defender rolls. They also roll dice equal to the number of knights they have in this battle. The player that rolls the higher number of swords wins the round. The loser of that round loses 1 knight. In the event of a tie, the defender wins the round. Step 2. The attacking player has the first option to retreat. If they decline, then the defender has the option. If both players choose to continue fighting, repeat steps 1 and 2. This continues until all the knights are eliminated on one side. Retreating. During step 2, either player can choose to retreat. The retreating player rolls 1 die for each one of their knights in the battle. The other player sits out. For each blank rolled, move the knight up to 1 space away. The space cannot have enemy units. If there are no available spaces, you cannot choose to retreat. Unless all knights escape the first time, you must try again. Players cannot cancel a retreat. For every retry, 1 knight is automatically eliminated. If any knights remain, continue rolling until all knights have either escaped or died. Let's look at a retreating example. During step 2, your opponent chooses to retreat. He has 3 knights, so he rolls 3 dice. He gets 1 blank and 2 swords. Because of the blank die roll, he moves 1 knight to an adjacent empty space. 1 knight always dies when trying to retreat again. So the second knight is killed. He then has 1 knight left and must attempt another retreat. He rolls 1 die this time, as only 1 knight is left. He rolls a blank and moves it to an adjacent space. Since no more knights are left, the retreat phase is over. For noble generals who have the smoke tent upgrade, all their knights retreat safely without rolling. This is only applicable against Tyrant generals. Next, let's look at how knights defend. Knights are the first line of defense. This means that when knights share the same space with friendly catapults or buildings, they defend them. So, opponents that wish to attack either, cannot until the knights are killed. In other words, buildings and catapults must be undefended before they can be attacked. Now, let's look at knights versus buildings, catapults or roads. Once knights share the same space with an undefended building or catapult, roll the number of dice equal to amount of knights you wish to attack with. Buildings, catapults and roads are destroyed when the player rolls swords equal to or greater than its hit points. This must be done on a single attempt as sword points do not carry over. For attacking roads, knights simply need to be adjacent to one, since roads are not built on spaces. If you have many knights on the same space, you may attack different targets. For example, say you have 6 knights on a single space that shares an enemy building and a catapult. You can attack a building with 3 knights first, and then attack a catapult with the 3 remaining knights. Another thing to consider is if you want to increase the odds of destroying the building. You can choose more knights for that target. For example, choose 4 knights targeting the building and only 2 against the catapult, instead of splitting the effort evenly. Noble generals who have the fire pit upgrade, receive the fire die bonus when attacking a tyrant's building. In addition to all your knight's combat dice, add the fire die for a chance to add extra sword points. If you roll a fire symbol, the building is automatically destroyed regardless of how many swords were rolled. When your knights are attacked in a guard tower, add 2 combat dice to your battle rolls. To receive this bonus, there must be at least 1 knight present. Empty guard towers do not defend against attacks. Players only receive 2 bonus attack dice. In other words, increasing the amount of knights inside the guard tower does not affect how many bonus dice you get. Next, knights versus giants. When attacking or defending against a giant, you have 1 attempt to kill it. If you do not roll enough swords that is greater than or equal to the giant's hit points, all your knights are eliminated. Remember, as a noble general, you can upgrade your outpost with weapon tents. This allows you to have 3 attempts to kill a giant instead of 1. What about player elimination? Players cannot be eliminated if all of a player's buildings are destroyed. 1. Leave all remaining units on the map. 2. Pay 2 gold, at the start of their next turn. 3. Place an outpost and 6 knights on one corner of the map. If no corners are available, select an empty space along the edge of the map. A player may sacrifice their buildings to start this process at any point of the game. And those are the rules for Storm & Conquer 6.0. For full details, please visit the link to the rules in the description. We appreciate all feedback and any questions that you or your play group may have, as we are always looking to improve the game. Join the conversations on our Discord and follow our socials for the latest updates. See you on the battlefield.